and welcome back to Fing Talks, the tech podcast you didn't know you needed. Sorry about that. So, brought to you by Dalila
and Nadia.
We're diving into cybersecurity, not the scary, jargon-filled version, but the real-world, practical kind that affects all of us.
Yeah, that's right. So you clicked play. So I think it's fair enough to say that we got to make your time worth it.
But first, jingle.
Fing Talks. Fing Talks. Yeah, clap it up. Nadia and Dolly Tech Talk that rocks.
Today, as we said, we're diving into cybersecurity, but not the scary one, but actually the real-world, practical kind. So before we dive into the subject, quick poll. So who here has reused the same password for like 5 different accounts?
Oh, sorry, guilty. And yes, one of them was indeed password 1234. I mean, don't judge me, please.
Not judging you, just doing that lovely. But today we're going to get serious because someone over here that we have as a guest actually knows a lot about the subject.
It's time for our special cybersecurity guest. So Sandra's in the studio, and she's a cybersecurity expert, a mentor, basically the person you wish that, was watching your digital back. So Sandra, welcome to our podcast, Fing Talks. Thank you so much for being here with us. We're super excited to have you.
Yeah, same here. I'm really excited to be here.
Okay, so the very first question is our traditional question here at Fing Talks. Sandra, if you were to be an animal, which one would you be and why?
Definitely a cat, because I have 3 house cats and they just nap and eat and play. That's really their life, yeah.
That's kind of your vibe.
Yeah. And maybe some travel here and there. Sometimes I'll take them out on my trips and stuff when we do road trips, so.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they have a lot of fun.
How do you manage that? Do you just take them with you, or?
Yeah, so we actually have have you guys seen backpack cats?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so we'll take them on a backpack, we'll take them on hikes sometimes, but essentially whenever we have a road trip or something that's semi-far, instead of flying, we'll just drive, and then we'll take the cats with us. And now they're pretty used to it, so they're pretty comfortable in the car, but it's actually easier than you think. Yeah, it's basically if you took your dog on vacation, but with a cat.
Yeah, fair enough. My cat would actually hate that, I think. He already hates it when I take him to the vet. He meows the entire time. But it's okay. He's getting used to it. So Sandra, I mean, you've built an incredible platform around cybersecurity education. We were wondering, what was your own path into cybersecurity? What inspired you to start sharing your experience and your journey? And also, did you always know that you wanted to work in this field?
No. So I always say that I accidentally got into cybersecurity. Originally, in college, my major, well, first of all, I started off in nursing and then I switched into tech, but I was an information science and technology major. Mostly did internships in the data science space and software engineering. It wasn't until my junior year or my senior year where I went to this conference called the Grace Hopper Conference. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's the biggest women in tech conference in the US. And essentially they have this giant career fair. And when you go, it's really just to talk to employers that you normally, may not have seen at your school career fair. And the last day of the conference, I ended up going up to this company who had a cool booth. And I was just it's already Friday and I already did my interviews for the week. So I was just walking around, and then I ended up talking to a hiring manager who was basically starting off this Women in Cybersecurity program. And it just sounded really cool. I mean, I've never done anything cybersecurity related. In college, my school did have a computer security and digital forensics certification, and that was the most cybersecurity I've ever touched. I've never done internships or anything, but this hiring manager that I talked to, he actually also coincidentally started his career in software engineering and then pivoted into cybersecurity in kind of a similar, serendipitous way. So I think maybe he saw, a piece of himself in me at that time, and he basically took a chance on me with my resume that had no cybersecurity experience and added me to this program, which in hindsight was kind of crazy, but I really, really appreciate this person for and he was basically my champion in my first job. So I really appreciate him for basically helping me start my cybersecurity career. And then from there, I basically got into it. And when I started my first job, I also ended up starting up this YouTube channel that you guys had mentioned, to help other people break into tech and cybersecurity. So it's kind of funny how things kind of come for full circle, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So that's actually a very original story.
Yeah.
Nobody would ever actually imagine something like that. But like for those who think that cybersecurity is basically like just hoodie wearing jackets kind of guys in dark rooms, what's the actual reality of cybersecurity?
Yeah, I feel like media has really portrayed cybersecurity as this like, you're like in the closet and you're just like, or in the back of a van or something and like typing away at a keyboard and suddenly you're in. But no, cybersecurity is really a team-based niche. In all of my cybersecurity teams, we've touched everything from legal, sales, HR, privacy. It really is working with other people, and I feel like people see cybersecurity as just hackers, but there's GRC, there's blue team, there's red team, yes, there's purple teaming. And personally, I think people who do the best in cybersecurity are the ones who are also very personable, or have soft skills that are going to be necessary for the job too. So it's a good blend of technical and soft skills. And yeah, I do have a lot of day in the lives of a cybersecurity analyst on my channel too, that really give you the rundown. It's not always just hands on keyboard type stuff. A lot of times you're in meetings, you're on bridge lines, you're dealing with incidents. So yeah, that's kind of the reality, I guess.
Finally have someone that kind of breaks that image of only being guys. Exactly. And also, you think that it's only maybe a male job when actually there's a lot of, there's more and more women, not only in tech, but also in Cybersec, and they definitely don't wear hoodies and just stay at home or in a van kind of typing on a keyboard. Yeah.
So like, other than this mistake, what's also the biggest mistake people make when it comes to like online security, other than maybe like having a password that is like 1 2 3 4 kind of thing?
Guilty.
Like you're one of them.
Oh gosh. Yeah. I think for the most part, I think it's the fact that people tend to be a little, maybe it's just around personal privacy online. You'd be surprised how much information you can find about anybody online. And me personally, even, as someone with an online presence, I'm very, very careful about what I share from my personal life online, but that's not the case for everyone. And I know you guys have probably already seen the news about all these deepfakes, even voice deepfakes. Someone could, pretend to be you, call your grandmother, and it's honestly very believable nowadays with the voice AIs that you see, and just finding, a few posts on your social media or some information that you shared to make it seem like they are you and to gain that person's trust. There's a lot of scams out there right now that are around this. So personally, I would say the biggest thing is to, as much as you can possibly do, try to limit what you're sharing online about your personal life so that, you're not going to, someone else in your life won't be taken advantage of based on that information. I think that's the biggest thing with the rise of AI.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, even kind of like seeing, I don't know if you followed the whole Coldplay gate, with the CEO that kind of got caught cheating, and and people got his information like in 20 minutes, and it was unreal that they got his name, his family pictures, and I think that's also something that can make people aware of this, because if you put your entire your entire personal life out there, not only you can get scammed or you can get deep faked or whatever, but people can actually get to you nowadays with facial recognition and voice recognition. And also that is a little bit freaky because, maybe someone is miles and miles away from you and they have all of your personal information. That's something that, I think, it's definitely creepy, but I think it's also really important to educate people on this because your digital footprint and digital life is going to be more and more day by day. It's something that is necessary and we can't live without nowadays. So I think educating people on this is really important. But you've actually, you've talked about building a cybersecurity lab at home, which is something really interesting. So if someone would want to secure their home network, right? what's the first thing that they should kind of check or change? And, do you think that, for example, we work with Fing, right? So do you think that tools like Fing could actually help people be more aware of what's going on in their network and kind of have the necessary information to then take, the necessary steps to actually protect, as we mentioned, their digital environment?
Yes, 100%. So when I started using Fing, actually, personally, in my house, I have probably like 50 devices that I have connected and maybe never even touched again. And a lot of them are just like really small things, like smart light bulbs, smart lights that connect to your internet, and sometimes you don't even know. So even just like random IoT devices that you might buy online and try once and never touch again, which is pretty bad. These things were still connected to my network. So when I ran the Fing scanner, it was really kind of crazy how much was still connecting. And, from obviously devices or companies that may not be known for their security, which is a lot of devices nowadays. So personally, I kicked off all those devices when I started doing that. So if you're someone who is starting a home lab, I really do recommend using a network scanner, especially one that tracks all of your devices with an inventory list. And obviously with Fing, one that you can actually kick off devices so that you don't have to worry about, random things on your network. And that in general reduces your attack surface. Even if it's a home office, you never know who could be snooping on your network. So personally, this is actually one of the number one things I recommend to people now first, after they build their home lab and like get everything set up, the basics. This is basically step number 2 for, keeping yourself secure. So I personally really like the tool.
Cool, thanks. We're glad to hear that.
I'm good at spelling too.
Sure.
Yeah.
So okay, then let's flip it. Okay, so what's one thing that everyone can do today to be safer online? Like after, for example, they finish listening to this podcast, to this episode.
So I actually have a subscription for. Have you guys heard of a tool called Delete Me? Going back a little bit to privacy.
No, personally not.
Okay, so basically your data is being sold by data brokers all the time, 24/7. There's companies out there who are basically just taking your data and selling it to other companies for ads or just making profiles about you. A lot of times it really is just for ads. But personally, I use the service and they basically send you a monthly report to delete your data online and prevent data brokers from selling it. So if you did this manually, you would have to go to these data broker sites and then submit a request to tell them not to sell your data. And this app basically automates that. So I personally really like that subscription. It keeps more of my data offline. I think still my number one concern nowadays is still around privacy. So anything that deletes your data, whether it be emails, phone numbers, a lot of times they will make connections to your personal life, whether it be like family members, anything that can tie back to you as a person, I try to get offline. And basically that's one easy way to do it if you're looking for an easy, simple, automated way to keep some personal information offline. That's probably the biggest thing, besides the typical use a password manager, use VPN depending on the situation. So
don't click on fishy links,
Yes.
which is something that is always very important to mention.
Yeah, exactly.
But actually, yeah, exactly. Going back to the fact that tech and IT and cybersec, they're mainly male-dominated fields and industries, right? So you also mentor a lot of women in tech. What would be a piece of advice that you would give to a young girl that wants to kind of like either go to college or just graduated and wants to start her career in tech and in cybersecurity and feels maybe a little bit discouraged by the fact that there's mainly guys? Like, for example, where we work, so Dalila, she started in May. She comes from a completely different background. She comes from a fashion background. And on her first day, when she came to the office, she was like, oh my God, it's mainly guys here. It was like, yes, welcome to the tech industry. But at the same time, I think it's very empowering when we have thought leaders and content creators like yourself. So I'd say, what would be if, a young girl would come to you, what would you tell her if she'd be like, oh, I don't know if I want to go into this industry because there's mainly, men, or why should I do that?
This is, I feel like, the biggest recurring theme for women in tech, because even back when I was in college, I there was this peer of mine who was a man, but he basically was very surprised when he found out from, I guess, our mutuals that I was going into tech, and he was like, oh wow, Sandra's going into CS, like that's like she's not gonna make it. And that's actually word for word what I was told. So honestly, I was kind of floored by this, honestly, but I think for the most part I kind of used it to fuel myself. Personally, I see it as, like, watch me. And I know not everyone is going to be that way, but the biggest thing is having a core group of supporters that want the best for you and always have your back. So from my perspective, sure, it may seem like there's definitely people who may discourage you, or you may not feel like tech is the best sector for you to go into if it's mostly male dominated. But if you think about it, why would you care about someone who may not have your best interests at heart compared to someone who is supportive of you? For example, if you have close friends or parents or siblings or a partner who is like, hey, I really think you could do this, you should listen to them rather than listening to the one-off hater, or like someone who's discouraging you or doesn't believe in you. That's always how I see it. But I am also very lucky to have a really strong support system, and having people who do believe in me, and friends who are supportive, and like having sisters who are also like very much always on my side. So personally, I would say don't listen to the naysayers, listen to the people who have your back, and those are the people at the end of the day who matter anyway, and those are the ones whose opinions that you should really follow. But another part of it is just follow your gut. If tech is something that you're even remotely interested in, whether it's cybersecurity or software engineering or data science, you should always follow your curiosity without thinking about what someone else will say. I think that's really just the best way to lead your life, and you don't want to look back and regret, oh wow, what if I actually considered that path and went down this way or made this decision. And it's easier to follow that rather than to think back and feel like, hey, maybe I could have done something there, but having that regret. So that's just how I see it.
I think that's a great answer, to be honest.
I'm gonna put that as my morning alarm to motivate myself.
Exactly. Motivational alarm. I think that's great. Yeah, thank you.
But regarding CS, are there any kind of skills or certifications that you think are overrated or maybe underrated?
Personally, I think overrated, probably the CH certification. I know a lot of people still refer to it, and it's very popular with HR, but for the most part, it's a ethical hacking certification that doesn't really test your ethical hacking skills, since the exam is multiple choice. So that's definitely a big criticism that the organization has gotten, and they just haven't really kept up as much with the rest of the industry. For example, the Hack the Box certifications, the TTM certifications that are very hands-on. So that would probably be an overrated one, but I understand why people still would choose to get it, because a lot of HR and recruiting or hiring managers will still put it on their job listings. So it does tick off the box. But underrated, honestly, all of the new certifications that HR might not know about yet. I think there's always kind of like a timeline curve when it comes to new certifications coming out, and when companies start adapting them into their hiring processes and looking for them. But the Hack the Box CBTS certification is a very good one for ethical hacking. Personally, I'm always a big fan of the CompTIA Security Plus, even though technically I wouldn't say it's overrated, but it's just right. It's already something that I recommend getting. Yeah. But I also recommend getting it too, as it was also one of my first certifications when I started in my field. And as someone who didn't come from cybersecurity, this was really where I got the foundations when I was studying for a few months for the certification about every cybersecurity topic, because it's mostly a breadth-focused certification rather than going deep into one sector. So it's really great if you're an SOC analyst or a security analyst who maybe doesn't know what field in cyber you want to go into yet, whether it's blue team, red team, GRC. The Security Plus is a really good place to start, just holistically. So those are my thoughts on certs.
I think people that are going to watch this are going to find this super helpful and super interesting, especially kind of our younger, subscribers that are maybe looking forward to getting in Cybersec. And what would you say is one kind of myth about CS that drives you completely nuts? That if you could have a magic wand, you would, delete it or change it in people's mind, apart from the hoodie guy in their van.
Yeah. Personally, I think one hot topic that's you guys have probably already heard of as well is the fact that AI is going to replace like everybody. So that is something that I've been really trying really hard to debunk on all of my platforms, because yes, AI is going to automate a lot of things, and quite frankly, it's going to automate the parts of your job that you probably don't want to do anyway. So for example, with like an SIM, if you have security alerts coming in, you probably don't want to be the first one filtering through all those all those alerts. And you could be getting like thousands of alerts a day depending on how it's configured. But imagine you have an AI bot or basically an automation that is going to go through that first, and then go through the first pass and pass you, the 10 alerts that you actually have to look at. It just saves you so much time and so much headache, and it's the part of your job that you probably don't want to do anyway. And if you work in cybersecurity or tech in general, there's always a backlog of things that you need to do and priorities that need to get worked on, but the team just never has enough time. It's always like that. So if AI can automate the boring parts of your job and the parts of your job that you don't want to do and doesn't necessarily need a human to be doing, then it's kind of like a win-win, because then you can focus on the stuff that is actually important, will actually drive your company's security program forward. And that's why I'm personally like, hey, AI, yes, will automate certain things, but it doesn't mean that it's going to just replace humans. Like, you still need security analysts, you still need software engineers, you still need data scientists, and if anything, it's just going to make us more efficient. So that's the frame of reference that I want to push out as much as I can to anyone who wants to listen. But personally, that's the biggest myth that hopefully gets debunked in the next few years.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, I've had these conversations and I'm not a tech expert, but I've had these conversations with a lot of people, and it's really interesting to see how freaked out everyone is about losing their job to something that simply maybe they don't understand from a technical point of view, or from, the thing, like, exactly, it's a win-win situation. So it's going to make us more efficient. It's going to make us definitely more productive. I mean, maybe the only kind of negative side note that I would see is that it would make us work more. Like, you can do actually more stuff in 24 hours, right? Yeah. So I think if you kind of explain that to people, they'll be a little bit chiller and for the whole aspect of, oh my God, I'm going to lose my jobs to a robot or to a machine. But it's really fascinating for me to kind of I'm super curious in seeing where it's going to get. Like, if it's going to, if it's going to be put into robotics, what kind of, discoveries we can make with AI, not only from a job point of view of how it actually makes your job easier, but where can we actually get from a technological point of view. I think that's going to be super interesting too, to see. Yeah.
But now for a little fun question.
Okay.
So off script. So, in your opinion, if the internet were a person, right, what kind of personality would it have? Like, for me, it would be chaotic, neutral, with a caffeine addiction kind of thing.
And a tendency to overshare, definitely.
Exactly. So what for you, what would the internet be like? What kind of personality would the internet have?
Interesting question. I've never been asked something like this.
We're clever.
I would say the closest I can think of is someone that I know. So my sister, she has so many interests. She's very outgoing. She also happens to work in tech, by the way. But one second she can send me a meme about something, and the next she'll tell me about this really deep conversation she had about existentialism. So that's kind of how I see it, where it's kind of like a mix mash of everything, and you never really know what you're gonna get. So maybe someone who just has a lot of interests, a lot of hobbies, different friend groups with different personalities, but is somehow still able to mesh well with everyone, and is still very likable somehow, even if sometimes they can drive you crazy. So maybe someone like that. Yeah.
If Sandra would have said one of those hooded guys in the rooms,
in the van, all kind of with their backs bent.
That's internet.
That's internet. Wow, Sandra.
I'm sure there's someone who would answer that question that way.
Definitely. I think because internet, was invented by people, it's gonna resemble our own, multiple personalities that are in the world. At the end of the day, I mean, everything digital has been invented by the human mind, so it's only reasonable to say that it actually resembles to someone to someone that we know and we can kind of picture and give them, give internet a personality. And with AI, for example, yesterday I was talking to a friend of mine and she was like, I use Gemini and she is really nice to me. And it was so weird that she used a pronoun, a female pronoun. I was like, oh, you think Gemini is female? And she was like, yeah, why? Don't you? And then I started thinking, why would I give, an artificial intelligence a pronoun or imagine it with, why would I gender it basically? So that's really interesting because at the end of the day, we have the tendency to, to bring everything that we create kind of back to ourselves, right? I think it's a way of connecting to it.
Well, I mean, many people do give like a male to ChatGPT.
Yeah, definitely. But you can also choose the voice. I think that's also something that
maybe
helps that.
too.
Sandra, thank you so much. You've officially made cybersecurity something really cool and interesting to talk about.
I hope so.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, finally we will take the necessary steps to make our digital footprint more secure. And actually, I will subscribe to Delete Me because the whole thing about the, data brokers selling my data kind of spooked me. But thank you so much for hanging out with us. And it was really, really interesting to get to know you more and get, to hear about your career and all of your, advice that you gave us. So thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
You as well. Thank you guys so much for having me. This was really fun and some unique questions were asked. So I'm excited to see this go up.
That was a great interview. I mean, Sandra's just the best, and she's so girl power. I love that about her.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm walking out of this episode feeling like I could actually fight off, a phishing scam with one hand and a sip of my latte in the other hand.
Yeah, right. So we're going to change our passwords. We're enabling 2 factors. Are we becoming responsible adults?
I mean, I wouldn't get ahead of ourselves. Let's just take baby steps. Come on.
But for real, if you're listening and you've been putting off that security update, this is your sign.
Definitely. And I mean, if you're thinking about getting into tech, especially cybersecurity, I think Sandra just proved that it's not only doable, it's kind of badass as well.
Yeah, but don't worry because we'll link Sandra's resources in the episode notes so you can stalk her professionally. Not creepily though.
Yeah, exactly. And if you like this episode, apart from leaving a like and a comment, you can actually share it with your friends, especially those who still use I love pizza as their password.
So we see you, we love you, but we're worried about you.
Definitely. And this was Fing Talks, where tech meets real talk and sometimes a little tough love as well.
Catch you next time, and remember, your network knows more than you. So treat it like your nosy neighbor with caution and respect. Bye.
Ciao.